and what you do.
Sure. My name is Scott Price. I'm a NOAA Corps officer. The NOAA Corps is a uniformed service. We basically drive the ships and the airplanes for NOAA, big NOAA, which is a large organization. The NOAA Corps is probably most well known for doing the hurricane research and reconnaissance. So with the P3s, similar to what we have here with NASA, we execute hurricane eye wall penetrations, track the center of the storm, and conduct research on the inbound and outbound legs with anti-radar and equipment that we have in the airplanes.
So does the P3 that NOAA flies, the inside of it, does it look a lot like the P3 from Icebridge?
It looks similar in that there is random kind of equipment mounted throughout the tube. Each P3 probably looks a little bit different in the world, but in general, yes, a bunch of equipment, racks, things like that.
How long do you guys fly for when you fly into the hurricane? So I guess it depends on how far offshore the storm would be.
It does. Typically, when we start flying in a storm, we will try to stay on it 24 hours. So we have two airplanes. We'll do 2 cycles per 24-hour period, which equates to about an 8-hour flight. We will typically take off either 2 or 4 in the morning, and then again at 2 or 4 in the afternoon. Second crew, normally a second airplane, and we'll stay on the storm as long as it's within reach. So if we can fly out and
Get to it.
execute a pass or 2 in it, and then we'll fly back. Sometimes that can be a 3-hour transit to get to the storm based on where it is.
Can you show me with your hand, like the eye wall of a storm, and how you guys would fly into it?
Sure. So with the P3s, if you have the eye wall and obviously the wind bands and the cloud bands around it, the P3 will typically enter at between 8 and 10,000 feet is our normal altitude. We basically aim for the center. We use a weather radar to make sure we're not going to hit anything that's too turbulent or bad for the airplane on the way in or on the way back out. So we kind of pick our path in. Once we're in, we almost frantically try to find the center of the storm using winds. We try to find a zero wind spot, which would equate to the lowest pressure in the center of the storm.
Right.
We use that information for the storm track. Based on where it's been and where we think it's going, we can sort of generate a track, which is then passed to NOAA and then disseminated to the public. So we typically go right in through the eye wall between 8 and 10,000 feet, find the center quickly, and then punch out in a safe direction on the backside. And depending on how much gas we have and how much time we have, we'll do that as many times as possible.
So in one flight, you could go in a couple times, crisscrossing the center.
Yep.
And then, gotcha.
The scientists in the back have different flight profiles that they like to execute based on the type of research they're doing at the time, and it could mean 4 passes through, could mean 3, could mean 10, in various patterns depending on what they're trying to accomplish.
They'll tell you from the back what to do, like, please go, can we do another run around here? Could we do this? Is
Pretty
that
much.
kind of
So
what they ask
prior
you
to
do?
the flight, we have a mission brief where the scientists explain their objective for the day, show us the flight profile so we have an idea of what we're going to do. Oftentimes, depending on what the storm does, that can change in flight, and that information is radioed from the back.
Got it.
And the pilots in front.
I suspect it gets pretty bumpy.
It can. Each storm
Yeah.
is different.
Yeah.
Most of the storms I've flown in, I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate, but they've been fairly smooth compared to what you would expect flying into a storm.
Sure. What's the most powerful hurricane you entered?
I've flown in a Category 3 storm a couple of years ago. And what's interesting about the storm flying is that it's exactly opposite to what you would think as far as amount of turbulence and size of the storm. Most people think a Category 5 would be the roughest ride and the most turbulent, but it's actually just the opposite. So
Oh, really?
a tropical storm, the phase before it grows into a hurricane is actually the most turbulent because you still have a bunch of updrafts and downdrafts.
Disorganized compared to...
Exactly right. Very disorganized. So you compare that to a very well-formed Category 5 hurricane. There's actually a lot less turbulence in the bigger storms.
I would never have guessed.
No,
It's quite fascinating.
So I've done a number of tropical storm flights and bounced around a little bit, but it's a good, strong airplane, well suited for the job.
Sure. So what kind of background, education-wise, do you have that got you here?
So I was a math major at Holy Cross, which is a small liberal arts college in Massachusetts. I entered the ROTC program. So I did 4 years in the ROTC program, and when I graduated, I commissioned into the Navy and became a P3 pilot in the Navy. NOAA gets their P3 pilots primarily from the Navy because it's one of the only training grounds in the world to harvest from. So I did 9 years in the Navy as a P3 pilot, and then did an inter-service transfer to the NOAA, which would be like transferring to the Army or the Air Force. So Navy trained, and now flying storms for NOAA.
The most important question of all, did you take physics in high school?
I did. And having a math background was actually a critical part of me being taken on by NOAA. We require a science or math or physics background.
Yeah.
It's a great organization. Science is a huge part of it.
Excellent.
For obvious reasons.
Cool. Well, thanks for talking with me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bruce.
Yeah.